the sun, the moon, the stars, and whatever this thing is. All cosmic entities resting in the infinite ether that we humans call space. Ever expanding, ever growing, ever collapsing, ever spinning, hungering, and omnipotent space. Okay, now get that thing out of here. Well, we learn more and more every day. Many questions still elude us, most not even having an answer, and very few will ever provide us any closure. But that's not today. Today we are jumping into another astrological signs as Pokémon video, and hopefully, in the most finite of ways, we may finally be able to answer the question that astronomers and astrologists alike have been chasing since the dawn of man. What would Sagittarius look like as a Pokémon? Welcome to the channel. I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me Stern, and we are hopping right into another astrology video with Sagittarius. And I know. So many of you have been putting bets and polls on who would be the next in the series, and I will admit that for a while I myself was banking on Tauros. But with the recent release of our Gravity Falls series and dropping the Minotaur in that series as a Pokemon, I found myself feeling two things. One, do I want to draw two bull-based Pokemon in a row, especially with the request that it not be a quadruped? And two, which do I feel would be more challenging? I felt that Sagittarius would be a little bit more challenging because it's a Centaur Archer, and so I walked away with that thought and that premise. And I wanted to save something very special for the final video, to reward Tauros for patience. Not something that bulls are incredibly well known to have, and I think that most Taurus people fall into that same category. So you'll be getting something very special alongside your video next week. I've also received a ton of fan art, music, and just really cool projects that y'all have been working on the Discord. So for the next FNAF video, keep an eye out for that. I am so consistently blown away by you guys' support, and I want to show that. But without further ado, and without any more stalling of the algorithm, let's go ahead and jump right into this drawing. The first form I knew kind of on the outset was going to be difficult, because a Sagittarius being a Centaur is a lot. That's a lot going on, especially for an early stage. I knew that this was going to be a 2-stage with our awakened form, and I had to start somewhere. I had to make it look smaller, more diminutive, and give it something that showed that it had promise, but didn't show what it was quite yet. So it became this challenge of how to balance something that was small and cutesy, but also you could very clearly tell was meant to become something else. I think that's a really big point that Pokemon makes, is very often when you see a Pokemon, you already know, without knowing anything else about it, just on the outset, just what it looks like, this thing's gonna evolve. Very often I think that's the case. When you see a Pokemon like Noibat, you know, okay, this is gonna become something. This thing's not fully cooked yet. And then you get Noivern, and you're just like, of course, blown away, amazing. It's a dragon, I guess. That makes sense. But how do you capture that with something that is already as complex as a half human, half horse, and throw in the archer aspect? Well, you do it by cutting something out, by giving it promise that it will gain something, by giving it the ability, upon looking at it on first interaction, I know what the reference is here, and I know that we're gonna see something there. So for this first stage, I actually wanted to move away from the archer aspect. I know. But an archer is the key function of Sagittarius. I agree. Which is why it would be so much cooler and so much better to see a small tyke kid type of character grow into that. I based this version almost on like a squire, on a person whose job it is to arm the archer themselves. This Pokemon's whole premise is that they are the person meant to help the higher form of themselves. So I gave it this arrow shape on the chest, almost as an insignia like a squire would wear. The sign of their master, the sign of the person who is in charge of them. So it has this arrow on its chest. I also gave it this long flowing mane to further tie in that human horse narrative of the hair of the person actually flows and becomes the hair of the horse on the tail. I don't know. I kind of I kind of blacked out when I was drawing this one, to be honest. I also wanted to give it this armor aspect so it felt more regal. It has that turquoisey, aquamarine type of color because that's the color associated to Sagittarius. And I wanted to give it these piercing eyes. I knew that from the very beginning, this had to be an aspect. It had to be something that looked like it was locked in. Like it had that potential in it. Even if at this point it's not an archer but is just someone training to be one, it had to have that look, that energy to its eyes that this thing is going to be big. It's going to be a champion. It's going to be a fighter. And I think that we nailed that pretty well here. I think that those eyes are absolutely piercing. While a Sagittarius is many things, I knew that in its base form, in this first stance where it's still kind of learning the world, I wanted to capture that energetic, idealistic, and independent type of energy. It'll become something greater as it evolves, but for the moment, it has a lot of uncontrolled and unaimed passion. Sagittike, the star archer Pokemon. Sagittike, even in their infancy, can be difficult to catch for any trainer. They're a Pokemon comprised of freedom and unencumbrance. It seems that the only master they can truly respect are those of their own evolution, often standing tall at their side. Sagittike are energetic, often to the point of recklessness, and to train one is to gain a lifelong ally. I love this thing. It came out when I first started designing it. This is going to be a lot. This is going to be complicated. This is going to be hard, and I don't actually know if I can make it fit, but I am happy with the direction that we went here. One of the key elements that I decided early on was, while it does have a horse body, I want it to feel almost like it doesn't. The composition of it should feel like the front legs are its own legs of its own single form, and the back legs are an additive. I think it adds a sturdiness to the design and allows it to feel like it can stand on its own without having to have so many overcomplicated aspects applied to it. And then I'm able to add those complicated aspects and hope that they balance out, and I think in this case they did. I went ahead and made it steel type because it is an archer, and I wanted to have that harsh and bastion-like energy to it that allows it to feel like it is a lot more stand still, like it can just stand on its own. And I know that I keep saying that, but that ended up being kind of the mantra of this design. For the shiny, I wanted to give it almost that adversary type look. If you look at Pokemon like Hawlucha, where the shiny is almost the bad guy, the enemy to this valiant hero, with those purples and deep mauves and pinks alongside Hawlucha's bright and vibrant colors, I wanted that to be the case here. It feels like it is the enemy, like this Pokemon itself has its own counterpart in its shiny itself. It has the abilities Keen Eye, Sharpshooter, and the hidden ability Quick Feet, which I think really work with a speed-based design like this. It's a part horse, part man. It should be speed-based. Speaking of speed, this design really just kind of flourished out. I didn't know where I wanted to go, and I just kind of let myself run wild with the design elements that I wanted on this, and I feel like it worked out. I feel like it kind of just panned out the way that it should have. It was kind of difficult kind of letting go and learning to just let this design be as it was, but I found myself kind of more so embracing the Sagittarius lifestyle, if you will. I thought, this is going to be overcomplicated, it's going to be really difficult, I'm going to need to plan ahead on a lot of this, maybe make some sketches, maybe cheat the system a little bit and draw this out once or twice so that I can get it right, so that when I draw it, it ends up looking like I did it on the first try. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be wonderful? And instead, I decided to take my own advice. Or the advice of Sagittarius, I guess. I'm not a Sagittarius, I'm an Aries. I charge headlong into things and get angry when they don't work out. But a Sagittarius doesn't. A Sagittarius, sure, they may charge headlong, they may do things without thinking and just go off of the passion and the emotion behind it, but it's usually directed. They have this freedom and this non-committance to them, this passion over what they're doing that derives this humor and this joy in the outcome. I wanted to feel that. I didn't want to feel like I was overthinking or underthinking the design, and this one very much was daunting. So I took that into account. I decided to just let it flow the way that it worked, and I think it worked. For the arms, I gave it these archer or bow-like appendages. The way I see it is they're able to use these to kind of blast off energy type attacks, even creating these steel arrows that they can send out. So I figured that this Pokemon is really good at ranged type attacks, especially with that ability Sharpshooter. I think that really works. We're able to take into account this strategy with the Pokemon. Do you want to focus on its speed or on its range or a little bit of both? I continued to bring in that gold color because I thought the idea of making this feel like this guard, this general, this sentinel, I thought was really cool, especially given the fact that it was going to be tall. It was going to be a big Pokemon. I knew that from the beginning. You can't really capture a horse without it being big, and then you can't also throw a man on top of that without it being even bigger. So I wanted to make sure that if that's the case, I shouldn't fight it. I should go with my gut on this. So this Pokemon feels like it stands tall. It feels like it is impending. It feels like it is so much all wrapped into one. And rather than fight that and say it's too much, say I've bitten off more than I can chew this close to the finish line, I let the Pokemon be what it wanted to be. That sounds ridiculous. It's a very heart of the cards type of vibe to go with, I think. But I don't know, it felt like it worked. Letting the design be what it wanted to be, letting Sagittarius be reckless, ended up being to my advantage here. It became an independent design. I almost feel like I didn't design this Pokemon, but it designed itself, and I am perfectly okay with that. Again, sounds weird, sounds strange, but at the same time, I get it. I gave it this long flowing mane with this brightish bluish color because I felt like that was just elegance, and as much as this is a strong, powerful Pokemon, it's elegant as well. Titarius, the Star Archer Pokemon. While the flowing mane of Tartarius may appear soft to the touch, it is comprised of long strands of metallic fiber. At moment's notice, Titarius will draw upon these strands and form them into arrows. Their aim is impeccable, as their arm outcrops allow for steady aim that will put any human archer to shame. Even moving at a rapid pace, Titarius seems to never miss, and were once even used over humans as cavalry for long-lost kingdoms. Gonna be honest, when designing that shiny, I fully thought about just going back and making that the official colors, but I still wanted to keep up that Dark Knight type of energy. If Titarius is this fabled archer who's so good at their aim and quick on their feet, all four of them, I wanted to have something that felt like it could be the enemy. And of course, if you're gonna have a shiny, you should probably make it look cooler than the original, right? Makes people want to go out and get it. So often I've been looking for shinies only to find them and realize, boy, I hate this design. I do not want to use this Pokemon on my team, but I'm very much an aesthetic guy. So, I'm the guy who matches the Pokeball to the Pokemon. So it's a steel fairy type, bringing in that fairy tale type of energy on top of the steel. It is a mythic archer type of Pokemon. It is a centaur, of course. How could I not make it based on myth and fairy tale? So it's steel and fairy, and man, I did not expect myself to love this design so much, but here we are. Research addendum. I've been tracking the herd of Titarius and Sagittike for a few miles now. I even took an arrow to the knee that almost took me out of commission. But if the rumors are true and our astronomers are right, then this field, and this time exactly, are the right circumstances for the... Oh my. It's starting. Yes, one of the Titarius is approaching the mound of rock. It is now at the highest peak of the whole field. Much like we'd seen in the other Pokemon that have gone through this phenomenon, this metamorphosis, this one seems to be following those same patterns. It's entering some kind of trance, and the others are now bowing down to it. They must know what's happening. With the awakened, or aligned, or whatever we want to call it, form, I knew that I wanted to go something mythic. Not to say that this is the mythic Pokemon of the region, but it had to be something that hit all of those qualities that we see in centaurs, in archers, in this whole energy and vibe of it being a guardian. I mean, we've looked throughout this video at some of the negative aspects of being a Sagittarius, the non-committal, the look for freedom over form. But truthfully, just like with every other video we've done on this subject, the good can outweigh the bad. It just takes effort and time. This is an energetic, an idealistic, an advantageous, an adventurous, a curious Pokemon. Or maybe I should say they're independent, energetic, idealistic, adventurous people. And how do you capture that in a Pokemon? You give it the proportions to match. You give it the shape, and you give it the concepts. And with that, I knew that I had to go something big here. A person very close to me is a Sagittarius, and the whole time that I was drawing this, I thought about them. I thought about what aspects of them that I'd love being around. How do I turn them and the energy surrounding them into a Pokemon? This wasn't like my other designs where I looked and I said, okay, let me look at these vague understandings of personality traits, do some research there to verify that I'm getting it right. I had real people that I could draw upon. And from that, we got this amazing, mythical proportioned creature that stands tall, rearing up on its hind horse legs, ready to attack, ready to defend. Its arms are now these gargantuan bows that I can imagine them putting together to make one big crossbow type attack. Maybe it'll have a specialized attack based on that. I'd love to hear down in the comments what you guys think. I can't do any of this without you guys. You are what make all of this possible, and even looking at the inspiration for this design and the people close to me, I have to say I feel like I hardly had a hand in any of the design that went into this, and still it's one of my favorites. Taking a page out of the Sagittarius book of just kind of letting go, that things aren't going to be perfect, and so you may as well just have fun while you're there. I think that's what allowed me to do this design. I think it's what allowed me, in a lot of ways, to do all of these designs, to continue the videos, to continue to be a part of the community, because I think it's so easy to grow and realize, okay, it's time for me to step away from the community now, and time for me to become this recluse who just kind of draws and gets fame, but instead, I want to be a part of the community. I want to be reckless, and I think that this was an opportunity, an example in how to do that. It's very heart of the cards, very Yu-Gi-Oh!, very just let go and let the creature take over on here, but it worked. And that's kind of the heart of Sagittarius, isn't it? And so here we have Titarius in its metamorphized form, awakened, aligned, whatever you want to call it. Here it is, and it feels powerful. I feel like it really captures some of the aspects of some of my favorite Pokemon designs. It has this long wisp down the back of it that is actually useful in creating these energy arrows, but is also kind of a reference to Suicune and Raikou and Entei, some of my favorite Pokemon, as I said. It has this guardian type of feel, almost like the Tapus, with its stance and its just energy that it is exuding. I love this design, and look at that shiny. Again, every single time I do one of these for this Pokemon, I'm like, maybe that should just be the design. But with the Five Nights at Freddy's videos and everything, I kind of want to move away from darker, more sinister designs anyway. But keeping it as a shiny, as the adversary to this Pokemon, I think works well. It works awesome, and this is definitely a Pokemon that I'm shiny hunting. If this is ever in a game, if this is ever in anything, if anyone from Nintendo is watching this and wants to make this a Pokemon, I will be shiny hunting this thing to the ends of the earth. Just call me Ahab, because this is my white whale. Still has that steel and fairy type, almost using those turquoise and greenish bluish colors that we brought in from the first design, feeling almost like a jade and almost like a rusted armor, but like in a good way, I think. And utilizing that alongside the gold just really gives that steel and that hardened exterior, while also allowing that mythical fairy type of energy to just flow all about it. I freaking love this thing, and if you do too, let me know in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I want to say it again, we have a super talented Discord community. If you're not in that yet, hop on over, take a look. These designs will be up on Ko-fi within the weekend, so if you love them and you say, boy, I wish that was my Pokemon, it can be. Just head on over there and check it out. Also, you can support me there as well as Patreon, and again, can't say it enough, money's great, support's fantastic. Join the Discord community, because I love hanging out with you guys above all of that. We have a potential big announcement going on there with some things that we're working on, me and my team. We also have a giveaway coming up. So if you're stayed till the end of the video, congratulations. You get to hear about the giveaway for the new game from the Five Nights at Freddy's people, Into the Pit. We're going to be doing a giveaway for that for hitting 200 followers on Discord. And as I put that out, we already are about to hit 300. So come and join, come be a part of the community. And with all that said, it sounds like you know where to find me, and I will see you in the next one, I guess. Bye.